Pretty sure we're on. Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Chiwetel. Hey, Charles. Hey, Darren. Hey, Kaylin. Hey, Blessed.
Oh. Wow.
Yo,
in this room right now. There's close to 100 people.
Oh, hey, Blessing.
It is so wow. Hey, Obo. Hey, Leslie Adam. Hey.
What's up?
How you doing? Look at all these amazing people I get to be around. It's incredible.
Wow.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Blademy.
There's so many amazing people in this chat. Hey, so throughout this webinar, I definitely wanted to be super interactive, and I know Olu will probably kick off with introduction and talk through sort of what this webinar is about. But everyone, I'm AJ, just like a early introduction, and honestly, I'm very excited for this webinar. One, because the people we have on the webinar, the panelists, are just really amazing people. They do really cool things, and I'm excited to learn from them. The other part is this is Blademy's first webinar, y'all. Like, this is our first webinar, and the room is just packed, great excitement. The other part is also the people in the comments right now, the people watching this webinar, y'all are also really amazing people. I'm looking through some names. I'm like, wow, I've seen your work. I've seen what you do. I've seen your content, and y'all are just amazing people too. So I really wanted to be interactive because I'm going to learn from you as well. So there's going to be many opportunities for you to ask questions, for you to answer polls, and you might even join us up here and just show your face and talk to everyone. So super excited, but I'm gonna kick it up to Ola to kind of run this thing. But please, let's keep the chat popping and let's make this interactive.
Dope. Thank you for kicking it off. We'll give everyone around 2 minutes just to have people join the room because it's about to be a party. So
okay, it's lit. Catch me in the chat because I'm trying to talk to some people right now. Olu, I think somebody says you're shy. Hey, Anne. Hey, Daniela. Hey, Dami. Hey, Macy. Hey, Alex. Hey, Ochuko. Hey, Larry. How y'all doing? Hey, Manny. Hey, Lanji. Oh my God, there's so many amazing people in here. Hey, Mani, Adeboye. Hey, Ridwanula. Hey, Matthew. Hey, Joseph. I'm gonna tell them something I'm not supposed to tell them.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get started now. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining the webinar. This is Blademy's first webinar. We're super excited. We actually just thought about doing this 2 weeks ago. We just wanted to connect with all the people who have shown love to us. There's so many of us out there trying to get into technology, get into software, get into the space and how to create. So that's why we're having this webinar, to connect with you guys and to also show you guys how you can transition from idea to actually being creative, right? So thank you guys for joining again. I understand this COVID-19 time is pretty tough, but you guys have made it to this place. So make sure you practice social distancing. Hope no one is in the same room attending this webinar right now. Please keep safe, follow the guidelines, and stick around. We're going to have a surprise for you at the end of the webinar. So make sure you stay tuned and you stick around. All right. So the panel is going to be approximately 45 minutes long. Then we're going to have some time for questions and answers, which is going to run for about 15 minutes. There's going to be a question and answer tool for you to ask questions. So if you feel like, hey, you have a question for any of the panelists, feel free to submit your question using the question and answer tool. Feel free to talk to other people in the attendee chat. And the webinar will be recorded, so you can have access to it and post it, share it wherever you want to. So so yeah, let's get started. Hey, panelists, are you guys ready for this?
I'm excited. Can you tell? Like, I'm lit.
Let's get it.
Hey, Whitney, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I
Yes,
think
I'm
you.
mad excited.
All right, Emmanuel, where you at? Is Emmanuel still with us?
So Emmanuel was having some trouble with his audio. So Emmanuel is also joining us on the panel. I'm just DMing him on Instagram right now, but he was having some audio issues. Hopefully,
And I'm still.
really
Oh,
quickly.
All right, cool. Well, while we're waiting for Emmanuel, we're going to go ahead and start with introductions. Whitney, if you don't mind kicking this off for us, do you mind? You can tell us about yourself, what you do, and what your journey was like going from being a programmer to actually building products.
I knew you were gonna call me first, Olu, but
So cliche, so cliche.
welcome everyone. It's so great to see everyone who's in this chat. I think we have over 100 people, even those in the Caribbean, Grenada. I saw Leicester. For those who don't know me, my name is Whitney Griffith. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, born and raised fresh off the boat, although my accent doesn't say so, but I went to Howard University, studied computer science, and I'm now a full stack software engineer at Microsoft, specialized in blockchain and big data. Um, let's see. So on my team, I can speak more of my team right now. Pretty much, we are dev crews of 68 specialists or technologists, we call ourselves. And we work with our top 500 customers in Microsoft. Pretty much, they come to us with some new innovation, and we go to them, we listen to what their problem is, and we pretty much ideate with them, architect a viable solution, and then we create a game plan to implement that solution in over 12 weeks. And in terms of my journey, I actually came to Howard University to study medicine. I didn't get into the BSMD program.
Hmm.
I think I'm having some internet difficulties, so let me know when I go in and out.
We can hear you.
And yeah, so okay, great. So I came to Howard just for the BSMD program. Turned out in my first semester I didn't get in. So I'm like someone who likes to always have a plan. I'm no longer that person, but back then I was. And my plan was like, hey, okay, if I have to do this bachelor's in sports medicine, I need to figure out a way on how to get like a viable major so that I can get a job so that I could potentially work, save money, and then go to medical school because I was all about that medicine life. And like one thing led to another. I went into computer science department. I spoke to the dean randomly, and he was like, "Hey, you should come into computer science." And I'm like, "What is that?" Like, I had no idea what computer science was. So he was like, "Go to this hackathon at UNC Chapel Hill." I went to it. It was like an all-female hackathon, and I pretty much spent those weekends, that entire weekend, walking around watching other females like think of stuff and create it in like 48 hours, and I was mind blown. Like I didn't touch any type of code until like roughly the last 4 hours. I was like, okay, let me try and do something. And I just copied and pasted from a YouTube video. But like just doing that in itself was like, okay, this is me. Like I want to have this power right now where I can just like think of anything and just go off and like make it happen without asking my mom for permission, you know? Or like the government. So that's pretty much was my journey into computer science. Like I saw it as a tool to empower me to just do what I need to get done, whatever idea I had, and that's my story. So
Wow, wow. Thank you for sharing that, Whitney. Super inspiring. Um, Emiola, do you mind stepping up?
Yeah, of course. Thank you all for having me. I know that there's a lot of different things that all the people attending could have been doing with their time, so I feel honored to be part of this group. Yeah, so my story, I don't know how much we want to go into it, but I'll just really quickly do my background. Born in Nigeria, and then South Africa, my family moved to Botswana, and then South Africa, and then back to Nigeria, and then Nebraska, and then Texas, and then I'm in California. Um, that's a whole other different story, but I right now am a product designer at at Twitter. I've led design across a number of different initiatives or different projects over there, including corporate productivity, design systems, and then right now I lead design across a team called Revenue Productivity, which is essentially the team that leads the builds the internal tools for our global sales force. And had some really good success over there. Delivered some tools recently that have brought in an additional like $50 to $100 million a year. So pretty big impact over there. Outside of that, outside of the office, I lead a couple of initiatives with the United Nations Youth Working Group. And we're trying to get youth involved in different sustainable development activities to make the world a more prosperous, equitable, and sustainable place. And that's something that's really, that's where a lot of my passion is these days. And I think that's it for now. I think there was another question that you asked.
What's one project you're currently working on?
Yeah, so I would say that the big one for me right now is that I'm really excited about is the work with the UN. It's a deep passion for me. I spent a lot of time trying to get, doing what I can to get into Silicon Valley, and I feel like I've done my bit there. And that's a much bigger conversation I'm sure we can get into. But now trying to move my general career towards more away from let's put a dent in the universe to let's fix some dents in the universe. So yeah, happy to talk to you more about that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Emmanuel, you're up next. You have to tell everyone where you work, when you started coding, and one project you're currently working on. Emmanuel.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Just facing some technical challenges. So thank you all for your patience. My name is Emmanuel Champon. I'm a machine learning engineer at Morgan Stanley. And I started coding. I got into college at Berea. I got into Berea College. It's in Kentucky, free tuition for everyone. So everyone is awesome. And that's when I got introduced to computer science. So I didn't know what computer science was. I came there trying to do electrical engineering and math, and then some way, somehow, I found myself. They didn't have an engineering course, like they didn't have a good engineering program. So I started taking computer science, and then I stuck with it. So that's how I got introduced to computer science. I got introduced to machine learning during my internships. I was very fortunate. I had great bosses, and my first internship as a sophomore, my boss was like, everybody's doing software development. Everybody's doing web development. I want you to focus on this project on data. And he let me do everything. And that's how I got like my first introduction to machine learning. So that's what. And currently a project that I'm working on. I'm working on a couple of projects, but I think the most fun one for me right now is how do I put this? So it's like for black men's haircut, right? You upload a picture and then you get to see various images of what your haircut will look like in a better sense. Yeah, I don't want to talk too technical, but that's what I'm excited about personally.
Whoa.
Yo. Thank you for that, Emmanuel. If you guys don't know Emmanuel is like the project god. Like Emmanuel has a new project like every week. So if you need a project to work on, you should definitely like send a message to Emmanuel right now, like right now. So thank you for sharing that, Emmanuel. AJ, you're up next, bro.
Dang, I can't even follow that. So I follow Emmanuel on Instagram, and this guy, every time I open my Instagram, like he's just always making something cool. Like he's either working on some machine learning model. He even worked on like a beauty. Maybe he's going to talk about. I don't want to steal your shine, but he worked on like a beauty sort of software where if a lady wants to get makeup or beauty things, she can just put in a bunch of information and boom, the AI will recommend what she should buy. And I just thought that was really cool. But yeah, well, for me, I am AJ, and I am the founder of Blademy. More importantly, I just care about creating experience that delight people. I tend to think my sort of thing is just whatever I can create that can delight people, whatever I can create that can benefit people, that can help people. That's where I'd like to spend my time. One of the cool things I'm working on right now, it's a few things. One, I'm working on just creating more amazing content through Blademy and making sure that everybody has the resources and access that they need, because that's really my primary passion. Blademy for me is legacy. It's like, how do we build our community? How do we work with each other? How do we support each other? How do we create opportunities for each other? And it's not enough for like me to be doing great. It's not enough for Emmanuel to be doing great. It's not enough for Whitney. It's not enough for Eniola. It's not enough for anybody in this webinar right now to be doing great on your own. It's like we got to work together. You know, we got to share information, and that's really what Blademy is about. That's why it's a blessing to work on this every day. It's just a blessing. So while I do that, I also try to feel my creative desires, working on side projects. I worked on one of my recent projects that was like super interesting. It was literally Instagram filter that I made in one weekend, and now it's being used like within 24 hours it was used by over 100,000 people, and now it's being used by over 500,000 people across the world. Literally, I coded it up in one weekend. I'm not even kidding, guys. And so I tend to work on different projects like that. Tend to like try to get my creative juices flowing. Right now, I'm really interested in just augmented reality, the convergence of augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and just human experience design. So how do we create experiences for people using those technologies? And I have something in the works. If you follow me, you also know I'm like super into. I have this human experience design lab that I work on. It's Astro Media Lab, and I just create a lot of really cool technology. And obviously, I hope that after this, like we stay connected, we work together. Let's work on cool things. That's the whole point of this webinar. It's like, hey, yeah, you know how to code, but you don't actually need to know how to code. Even if you know how to code, like let's figure out how we can create things together. Like let's make dope stuff. So that's what I'm about. Hopefully, I think Olu left us. Okay, there you go. So Olu, please feel free to take it and talk.
Can you hear me now? Can everyone see me?
I can see you and hear you.
All right. Cool. Wow, thank you guys for sharing that. It's just so much inspiration. AJ making Instagram filters, Emiola working on $1 billion like projects, Emmanuel dropping AI projects, Whitney from medicine to software engineer, just mind blowing. Blockchain queen, she's the blockchain queen. Yeah. So thank you guys for the intros. So we're going to dive into some questions now, just to kind of like share with the audience like what it is to know how to code and to be creative with that with that ability, right? So first person, who wants to go first? Ha ha ha! Mini, money more. Okay. I'm going to go with Whitney first. So Whitney, you're an entrepreneur, like you founded a blockchain company before. You're also an investor. And you do angel investing, and you're an advocate for underserved communities, right? How has learning code helped you pursue other creative endeavors?
I think coding is a tool for me in the sense that I will never proclaim to be like the best engineer or the person who can write the most efficient algorithm. Like I don't want to be that person. Like I want to be a person who is like fixated on problems, like real world problems, and like figuring out ways on how to like use technology through code to get to that point. And I've always had like an ability to like again, I don't think I always had the ability, but I was always annoyed by inefficiencies, right? And by learning to code, I'm now able to like figure out ways on how to like create solutions, whether it's technology solutions, people solutions, community-based solutions, to remove those inefficiencies for our progress, like collectively, right? And one through my, I guess, annoyance with inefficiencies, one way that I was able to grow as a person, and I'm constantly training myself, is that I don't get overwhelmed with like a bunch of like technical terms. I don't get overwhelmed with like, oh wow, this is a huge problem. Like this is big. Like how do we even start? Like anybody can throw at me, or I like to say anyone can throw at me a problem. I don't need to have like the contextual like or the technical knowledge on it, and I can pretty much like, I guess from a PM way, right, just break out the components, or at least scope it to such a way that hey, my team of 3 people wouldn't get wouldn't be scared to even begin talking about what is the problem, what is a potential solution. So like coding has always been a tool. In fact, I like to spend like 50% of my time coding, 50% solutioning. And
Mm.
the biggest thing I got from learning how to code is being able to access spaces like Silicon Valley. Like before like my ability to code, I was still like solving problems. I was still hustling. I was still like trying to figure out ways to make money. But like as soon as I got to that level of being able to code, I got to levels of being in spaces with other people who code as well as just talk about like real world problems, real world shit, like real world solutions. And like just being in that space in itself has just continuously like level, like blow my ceiling of what's possible. So I think coding was just like a tool for me. And yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So you mentioned something about like not spending time thinking about how big the problem is, right? You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned regardless of the size of the problem, you don't let it overwhelm you. Can you talk about that process, right? Like not many people, I'm sure you might have like a step-by-step process to say, hey, this problem is really big. I don't want it to overwhelm me. How do I break it down into chunks that I can work on easily? What does that process look like and why is that important?
So the process begins with getting everyone who has like a stake in this problem, who is impacted either as like a provider, as a solutionist, or as someone who's actually feeling the pain of whatever it is. Like just getting as much of these voices together in a room. Everyone has to get to on the table, right? And that's where the process begin, where most times it's mixed with business people, most times it's mixed with like deep technologists who could actually explain, I guess, a blockchain protocol for you, right? Like I'm not gonna do that to you for you, right? And once we have these people in the room, what we try to do is be intentional in terms of the words we use. We don't want to be like, oh, we're gonna use the SQL database. We want to figure out like, hey, we have data, we need data stored, but we don't know what is the underlying technology is yet. So I try my best to stay away from like using technology heavy terms, and let's just talk as people. Like let's have a conversation. You come to me, you have a headache. Well, how does that headache feel like, you know? And always, sometimes you need one person constantly moderating that. As of right now, I'm that person most times, but like being able to pull everyone back from like that rabbit hole of, oh, we should do this, you know, to like, okay, what is truly needed?
Mm.
Are we discussing right now? So I think some things that help is communication and knowing who your personas are. Yeah,
Okay.
so that you can like truly manipulate the different perspectives, and also emotional intelligence to an extent, in the sense that oftentimes when we code we get super attached. Like I get super attached to my ideas as well, and so on. It's like human nature. So like we have, as people who trying to solve problems and create, because no matter what you create, that is not the final solution. You have to do iterations on top of that. Like no matter how great it looks, that's not the best. There's always better out there. And once we are able to be detached enough from like emotions and like attaching our identity to like our solution, then we can keep like a level headedness to an extent. Um yeah, so like figure out how to be half human, half robot. I think we lost Olu.
Oh yeah, I'm back. I'm back.
Eh,
Sorry about that, guys. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
and I saw a question. What language did I start out with? I started out with I think either JavaScript or Python. Yeah,
Hey, wait. Um, we're going to keep questions from the audience till like towards the end. We'll have plenty of room to kind of answer questions from the audience.
my bad.
That's fine. Thank you. So, wow, thank you for sharing that. So, I think this is like a perfect segue. Whitney has kind of spoken about like breaking down problems and understanding like the stakeholders. Um, so next question is for Emmanuel, right? Emmanuel has walked through like so many problems. I'm sure he probably understands what it takes to actually like think about a project and break it down into simpler pieces and identify stakeholders. So question for you, Emmanuel, what would you say are common misconceptions people have about starting a coding project? How can we combat these misconceptions and have a new approach to creativity?
Yeah, so I think Whitney gave like beautiful answers. So thank you for that, Whitney. Um, in terms of like some of the misconceptions that I think people have, I think I have two main ones. I think the first one is people think that they have to be like experts at a particular topic before they work on a project in that topic. So, for example, people think they have to know everything about machine learning before they work on a machine learning project. The thing is, not really, because you can learn things as you go. And like Whitney said, your first project is probably not going to be very good. You know, that's why iteration helps. So always, you don't have to be like a PhD with 10 years of experience to work on a personal machine learning project that you're thinking about. So I think that's one of the main misconceptions that I think people have, that you don't have to be uh, an expert in anything that you want to build before you start building. And also, I think another thing that I think people have is that every idea they have has to be like the next Google or the next Facebook before they start to work on it. And I think those are like the exceptions and not the rule. Like, just because your idea isn't going to change 1 billion people's lives doesn't mean you shouldn't work on it. Because so like, even if it's a little idea that you think is going to work with only one person, just build it, you know, because that's how things do. So just get started. And then if you keep iterating, you're definitely going to hit that $1 billion idea. But if you don't have that $1 billion idea, that shouldn't stop you from actually working on projects that you're interested in. So that's what I have.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Emmanuel. Right. So I think the message from Emmanuel's response is sometimes you have to just start somewhere, right? Regardless of what the goal is, you have to start somewhere. If it's going to reach just one person, that's fine, right? You can always try again and reach 100 people tomorrow and then 1 million people next week. Keep going. That's the point. Keep going. Don't stop. Um, so, Emmanuel, a follow up question to that, right? You keep going, you don't stop, right? Where do you for each project you've done, right? Definitely you've stayed motivated, you've kept going. Where do you draw inspiration for your projects? How are you taking a shower at 9 a.m. in the morning and you're like, oh, I need to make I need to make a I need to make a machine learning product that tells AJ what type of shoe to buy, right? Or Whitney, what type of frames to buy. Where do you draw inspiration from? How, if you have a process for that, can you please share with us?
Yeah, so I think that like the way I view technology, I think again, like Whitney said, like I see technology as a tool and not like a career. Or, I don't know if that makes sense. Like I see it as a tool that anybody, like even if you're not a software engineer, you can use that tool to solve your own problems. Exactly. So whenever so most of the projects that I work on are things that I'm interested in. So let's say like I'm really interested in Nina Simone. I think she's amazing. So when I'm thinking of machine learning, I'm thinking of it in terms of Nina Simone. Like I'm interested in African traditional religion. When I'm building projects, I'm thinking in that sense, you know. And so I see technology as a tool. So it's part of my life. I don't know if that makes sense. So I draw inspiration for my projects from the things that interest me, and that's how like I build my products. And when you're interested in the things that you're working on, that serves as motivation in itself, because something like machine learning, it gets really difficult. You know, like it gets really difficult sometimes. You can't even find answers on Stack Overflow. So if you're truly passionate about the thing that you're working on, it allows you to keep going even when it gets like really difficult. Just keep going. So that's what I do.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. So, draw your inspirations from things that interest you, right? Um, so, thanks for sharing that. Let's move on to AJ, right? So, AJ, right? You're in a tight spot now. Not really. Well, let's see how you handle this. So, Whitney has spoken about breaking down projects. Emmanuel has spoken about how to keep going with projects and how to draw inspiration. You know, you're a digital program manager, Chevron, leading so many projects, founder of Blademy. How can we be more conscious of the things we build and their impact? Is there a limit to creativity?
No, that's actually a really great question. So I think that every time you open your mouth to speak, you have to have intention. If not, nobody would listen, and why should they? because then it's just noise. So every single time you open your mouth to speak, you need to have a message. What do you want to say? This is the same thing with writers. When writers write, they have a message. There's something they're trying to say. When you watch a movie, the director, the writer, the screenwriter is trying to tell you something. If they're not telling you anything, you're wasting your time. Um, and the same thing applies to creating of any kind. If you're trying to build an app or you're trying to build a product, you better be trying to make a statement. You better be trying to say something, because if you're not, nobody will listen to you. This is super important. And I think a lot of people miss that, because even I tend to get excited about technology sometime. And I'm like, oh my God, like, Flutter just came out and I want to learn Flutter. I want to learn this new programming language. I want to learn this and this. But the truth is, if you create just to like, oh, let me just create to learn, that's good if you want to learn. But if you actually want to make a point, you want a product that people love, you want a product people use, it has to have a message, right? Like when I started working on Blademy, it wasn't just because I thought it'd be cool to like have this online learning platform. No, it was like, hey, I realized that there are millions and billions in terms of just generational legacy, generational wealth, and the future of just black people in America that's at stake here. And I want to make an impact. I want to make a dent, right? And then we figure everything else out, right? But you have to have that thing that you're trying to accomplish, right? Even if we didn't do online courses, like maybe we'll do like online webinars, we'll do something, but the goal is we're trying to really make a statement, right? And I think that that's very important. When you might work with Chevron, for example. I mean, I'm currently a digital program manager at Chevron, and I lead a lot of digital initiatives across North America and internationally. And there, it's different from working on Vladimir, right? Because at Chevron, it's a global corporation. We spend stupid money. It's a bigger scale, right? And so you spend a lot of money. And so even then, it's even more important to be clear about what you're trying to accomplish, because every day you're burning through $1 million, right? And that's what happens at scale. But even like daily, it's like you're spending your time working on this thing. You really want to take off. Like, who wants to create things that nobody uses? Like, I don't think there's anybody in this room that say, I want to create something nobody likes. I want to create something nobody uses. Like, you always want to create things that people enjoy, people use. That's the joy of creation. It's like, I want to take a picture to show people. I want to make a post so people can see it. I want to, so ultimately, the first thing before you create anything, think about what are you trying to say. First thing. That's how I go about it.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So what are you trying to say? What message are you trying to pass across, essentially, right? Um, Perfect. So I hope everyone is getting some real time nuggets right now, because AJ just dropped some word. Um, so so before we move ahead, AJ, I want to ask you a question now. So we've gone through all these questions, and I think it's important for people on the call today to kind of stay aware of how technology is changing, right? Technology isn't the same way it was 2002, it's not the same way it was in 2010, it's moving extremely fast.
Right.
What are some trends you see in technology industry that are relevant to forming a new perspective on how we learn to code and be creative?
That's a great question. So let me let everyone on this webinar in a little secret. Technology has completely changed. Like the technology we knew of like 4 years ago, before, if you're in college, before you started college, technology you thought you knew about, during when Facebook was coming up. When Facebook was coming up, they literally Facebook didn't even know how to build an app. Like this is a company that they started Facebook on Harvard's campus. They expanded it. Facebook was the fastest growing tech company, and Facebook was really big on the web. Everybody logged online on your computer to use Facebook. But I promise you, Facebook did not know how to build an app that works. That was technology just a decade ago, right? So for Facebook to build an app that works, they had to invent new things. You might have heard about React and things of that nature. Facebook invented these things because it wasn't there. Today, I promise anybody on this call, even if you've never coded before, with the right focus, you can build a simple version of Facebook in one weekend. Like, the tools are out there. I promise you, it's very, very easy. Like, do not get it twisted. Um, I think one of the first real like projects I worked on, there was a tool I used that's called Bubble. it's not, you don't even have to write code. Like I made an app. I think I made a Twitter clone. And this is before I even like really knew how to code. I made a Twitter clone and I just did it by dragging and dropping boxes like Squarespace. And I made a freaking app. Like so don't even think that, oh, to make something cool, I need to know how to code. No, you don't. That's a lie. Um, it helps to understand how to solve problems, and that's what really great coders are good at. You're great at solving problems, and that's the message I'm really trying to get across. But in terms of access to, like, oh, let's say you have this idea, you want to build this app, we can talk a little bit more about, like, maybe why you shouldn't build an app first, maybe why you should do simple things first. But ultimately, technology is accessible to you today, and so that's the biggest trend that I've seen in the past decade. And I think moving forward to the next next decade, I think the best engineers on the planet are going to be working day in, day out to try to make technology more simple, try to make technology more accessible. So everyday people like you and me can build things that are profound in very short periods. Guys, I made a filter in one weekend, 8 hours of my time, and it's being used by 500,000 people across the world. It doesn't get easier than that, guys. I promise you. Yeah.
Whew. All right. So, AJ, thank you for sharing that. Super inspiring. It doesn't take that much time, guys. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science. Get to it. Just do it. I wish we had Nike in the call right now. Just do it. So, Emiola, I think everyone has kind of like honed in on like build, 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 and AJ finished last time talking about building with accessibility, right? I mean, Emiola, you're a product designer. So what role, how important is design to the whole process of being creative, right? I don't want anyone on this call to walk away thinking, oh, I just have to write code and put out a product. I don't want a product. What does it mean to use a product? How should products make you feel? Like, can you walk us through that process on why UX, UI, product design is important to the creative process?
Very big question. Yes, I think the main frame that I want to keep here is this idea that to be creative doesn't mean you have to be like an artist, or you don't have to be working with technology or with code necessarily. As a designer, my job is to understand a problem in the world, the set of stakeholders, their existing reality and their problems in their day-to-day life and workflows. And then after that, work towards developing the solutions that have have a potential to meet those problems. And then the point moving forward from there, the goal of moving forward from there is trying to, in an iterative fashion, test my hypothesis against the problem, the reality of the problem. And so in that ongoing process, you're improving your model of the world, your map of the problem that you're trying to solve, as well as the map of the solution that you're trying to build. That might sound a little bit crazy the way I explained it, but honestly, that if I might need some more time to explain that, but that realization that you just have the three components really just broke open creativity for me, and actually brought me to this point in my career where I feel like I could go into any industry, whether it's cinematography or even like public policy, and I could break down the creative process into that, right? Is understand what objectives we're trying to accomplish, come up with a set of solutions with potential solutions, and iteratively try to test whether they match. Yeah, and so I didn't get to speak about this earlier, but I did study computer engineering and cognitive science in school. And I actually was pretty good at engineering. Just personally, for me, I saw technology. Just a few people have mentioned. I saw it. I don't know if you can still hear me. My video went dark.
You
Can
can
you still
hear
hear
it.
me?
I
Okay,
can hear
awesome.
you.
I don't know. I have Figma on my computer somewhere, so it might be messing with my performance. Uh, sorry, where was I? I just lost my train of thought. We're talking about creativity.
We were talking about how you started out with computer engineering and stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let me know if my signal cuts out. Um, yeah, so I studied computer engineering. Didn't I saw it as a means to an end, like a few people have mentioned, a means to an end that is like innovation. And I chose to focus on product design, which to me was where I thought I could excel the most as an innovator, right? So being closer to the user and understanding their world versus trying to understand the code. But it very much is coding, like programming to me is just like any canvas, like I mentioned before. Whether you're doing graphic design or product design or code, like you're essentially trying to understand a problem in the world and then solve it. Um, yeah, that's if there's any big takeaway from that is that creativity is not no one's born to be a creative. I can dig a little bit more into my college journey, but creativity is a skill that I gained over time. It's not something that I was born with. And no one in here was born with that skill.
I love that. Oh, look, can I add something? That was really good.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Emiola. Super, super good.
That was really
Hey,
good. So what Emila said, I want to emphasize that it's so important and it's so powerful. See, when I was growing up, I never thought I was creative. I actually thought the opposite. Like whenever I didn't grow up, I didn't know how to draw. I never knew how to draw. I would like trace stuff and try to look cool, but really I didn't know how to draw. I still don't know how to paint. Let me put it to you this way. You look at people like Kanye West and like, this man drops like straight heat when he produces music and it's like, it's like straight, like the beats are just boom. The guy barely knows how to play the piano. I don't even think he knows how to play the piano, right? There's all these great beat makers that don't know how to play the piano. So it's almost like everything you think is true is not, right? So like for me, for example, like I can create these really great designs, but you have to acknowledge that everyone is creative. So every single person is creative. And even if I didn't know how to draw, I didn't know how to do these things, create design and creativity is just as intricate and as delicate as coding or problem solving or engineering. It's a problem solving process. It's like, should I make this circle big or small? Should I use a red color to signify danger, or should I use a yellow color to get attention? You know, or should I use a blue color to make I'm professional? Right? It's all problem solving. That's what design is. And another thing is, there's a big misconception with everybody that wants to be an entrepreneur. They think that to be an entrepreneur, the first thing I have to do is learn how to code, or if I don't know how to code, I cannot build my product. That's a lie that we've told ourselves over and over again. More important than coding is design. I know this is crazy, but more important than coding is design. You know why? Because if I had an idea for an app and I go and draw it on paper and I go on my computer, I make it look cool, I make some nice graphics, I can show you what I'm trying to build. It's tangible. I can show you and say, hey, look, right? And then if I know Emmanuel is a great engineer, I can show Emmanuel and say, look at this app. It looks pretty, doesn't it? Would you like to partner with me and build it with me? And if Emmanuel can see it, what you've designed, then he's likely to actually want to partner with you versus saying, oh, I'm a coder, do you want to code? It's like, what are you trying to code? What are you trying to do? But that design thinking beforehand is really helpful. Any engineer will tell you this. If you present me with a designed app with exactly what font I need to use, exactly what I need to do, that's an engineer's dream. Like, somebody that knows how to think, somebody knows how to design things beforehand. So important. I used to build websites where I'll just go and start coding. My websites were always trash. But when I learned, before I coded my website, I would draw it on paper. I would draw everything on paper to the buttons. When I was coding, it was just so much easier because I just know, oh, I have to put this button right there, and that's so important. So huge misconception. And Emiola, thanks for bringing that up. I just wanted to emphasize that.
perfect. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Emiola. Because of time, we're going to move. We're going to move ahead, and I have like two more questions, and that's going to be for everyone on the panel. Try and keep it short and sweet, informing. Um, so the first question for Emiola, what piece of advice do you have for students or young professionals looking to break into the tech industry but don't have a CS background, or maybe they do have a CS background but they don't feel inspired to create?
Whew. Okay. I'll give you what my strategy was to really like break in I come from like I didn't come from a big like Ivy League school or anything that was a feeder um, into Silicon Valley. I went to the University of Texas at Dallas, and um, yeah, my strategy was to find out what I really was really interesting to me about the world and what problems in the world I wanted to solve, and gained as much knowledge about that as possible. So what I started doing was blogging on my website about productivity and like personal development and organizational development. And what that ended up doing is like helping me build like the early stages of expertise for productivity tools. And so after I graduated, I happened to have gotten a fellowship, a design fellowship with Kleiner Perkins. I got a short-term contract with one of the companies in their portfolio, and it was actually a productivity company, right? And so the reason why I'm explaining all this is because in that interview process, there were a bunch of other people interviewing for that same job. In that process, I was the only one who could truly speak to productivity as a discipline, right? Because my passion just showed through in the interview. It doesn't matter if my design skills were inferior because I was self-taught. I was a self-taught designer. I studied computer engineering full time, so it didn't matter because I was able to ask them questions that they wouldn't have expected someone a recent grad to have asked them. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of fulfillment that you can gain in really finding out what problems in the world is you like to solve, whether it's in the retail space or the meditation space or sustainable development. Like really honing in on what it is that you are passionate about and what makes you come alive, so that if when you find yourself in the arena of the job market, you have a superpower that no one else can really fuck with, honestly. And so that was my strategy for getting into Silicon Valley. But I think that applies to really anything. If you're going into medicine, if you had a particular focus within medicine, that would also open doors for you. Beyond that, mechanically, I would say just in general, for trying to get any job, especially in Silicon Valley, there are 2 steps. Very simple, 2 steps. 1, get the interview, and 2, kick ass at the interview. That's pretty much it. And so that first step, getting the interview, generally you can make that a lot easier for yourself if you network and you have connections and you leverage your alumni network of your university to actually tap into the people at the organizations that you're looking to work at. They can help you get that interview, and that's step 1. And step 2 is doing your homework, doing your research to actually be able to dominate it, bringing your full self to the interview so you can dominate in it and be that candidate that stands out above the rest of everyone else. That's pretty much what I'd say. If I was going to tell my 20, 22, 21-year-old self, that's probably what I'd say to him.
Perfect. Actually, I'm holding some salt because I applied to Kleiner Perkins and I got rejected the following morning. So
you're like us, man.
so yeah, thank you for sharing that. Do you mind, and I can repeat the question for you. The question is, what piece of advice do you have for students or young professionals looking to break into the tech industry but don't have a CS background, or maybe they do have a CS background but don't feel inspired to create?
I can think of 2 things. One, figure out what is your superpower, especially if you're not coming from a technical background. You already have up on most like techies, because as you know, techies are like usually they can't communicate. They either like head down in code or something like that. So if you can figure out what is your superpower, what you bring to the table, whether it's like, okay, you're really good with seeing patterns, you're good at communication, or you are artist, like whatever is your superpower, there's some sort of alignment with that and a technical contribution. Whether it's a technical role, for instance, artists can become a UX designer or something like that. But like once you know who you are in terms of your skill sets and what you like doing and what you're good at, then you can iterate or you can come to the table unapologetically. And this goes into my second advice, which is to be unapologetically present in spaces that other technologists are, right? For instance, wherever you are, you might not be in San Francisco or whatever. There are meetups, there are events, there are LinkedIn, people on LinkedIn. There's Zoom now. Like you can literally find or you can like literally stalk ethically and find people who are doing cool things that you like or who have been through spaces that you want to be a part of. Reach out to them, like do things that they do. If you see they went to like South by Southwest, look into what South by Southwest is. Is that somewhere that you should be? So like I think there's a lot of events, a lot of information online. There's a lot of people like ourselves who are willing to respond to any type of LinkedIn message, willing to jump on a 15 minute call, willing to show you our office, like wherever you are. You can come in for lunch, whatever. Like just start talking. Because unless you start talking, unless you start being present, you have no idea where you will be. Because I've been in tech for the past I would say 3 to 4 years, and every day or every month I at least find out about a new role that someone is doing or a new job description that somebody's doing in tech, and I'm like, wait, what? I could do this. Like this is awesome, right? So like there's like different entry points, and I saw this happen a lot in the blockchain space because the blockchain was like an emerging technology. It was like everyone ground zero, everyone get in. Where do you get in? And I saw people who had like experience hosting events. They came and they created a space for themselves in blockchain industry where they started being community builders. So there's always some sort of alignment, and if you don't know what your superpower is, reach out to your close friends, reach out to people you worked with on group projects, reach out to like your professors, like just anyone, just talk to them. Go to hackathons, go to whatever, like just be present.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I hope everyone is taking very detailed notes. So this is going to be the last question before we move to answering questions from the audience. So I need you guys to be very, very concerned. Be honest. Milk before cereal or cereal before milk?
Cereal before milk.
Cereal before milk? AJ, you're that type of guy?
Cereal
I'm
before.
I'm with you, AJ.
How about you?
Difference?
Cereal before.
Cereal first.
Okay.
And my milk is cold too. So
All right. Cereal before milk. All right. Thank you, guys. Wow. Can everyone please thank the panelists? Like, great answers, great responses. You guys have been amazing. All right. So we're going to move into taking questions from the audience now. If you have any question, please drop it in the chat. So we can ask for so let's go. So the question here is, give me a second, please. All right. So the way we're going to do this is one person per question, right? And so I'm just going to ask a question. I'm going to pick someone to answer that question. So my question here is for Emmanuel. This was from says, what ways for developers and who want to move web development to machine learning? So I think Boston was asking, what suggestions do you have for people currently in web development? How can they move over to machine learning?
So I think you're breaking. I heard that someone in web development trying to move over to machine learning. Is that a question?
Yeah, what's about?
Okay. Wait. Again, it was breaking. So web development to machine learning, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think not just for web development, but for anybody. One thing that my mentor told me very early on was that like you can have 4 years of experience in 6 months, and I thought that was crazy. But what he made me realize was that if you do put in the work and the effort, and you work consistently, right, consistently, consistently, you'll probably have a better chance than someone who was worked for like 10 years but inconsistently. So if you're trying to get into machine learning like I did, like this, I'm just sharing my journey. I don't know if it'll help you or not, but it's understanding understanding what machine learning is, because I feel like a lot of people want to get into machine learning, but they don't really know what it is. So taking the time to understand what it is before trying to dive into the tools. So you take your time, you understand what machine learning is, you get into the tools, preferably tools that you're comfortable with. I use Python, but there are other tools as well. But in a general sense, understanding what machine learning is through taking courses, that's what I did. Experimenting and building projects on your own terms so that you understand what you're building, right? And then finally joining the community, because there's a huge community of machine learning out on the internet. And no matter what your group of people are, you can always find a group that fits what you want to do in machine learning. So in a short sense, that's it. So you can go deeper, but I want to keep it very simple.
All right, thank you for sharing that. And the next question is for Whitney. What is blockchain exactly?
What is blockchain? Wow. Okay, cool. Blockchain at a very high level, I would say it's just emerging technology that exists for multiple parties, people with different interests, different incentives, different goals to come together in one collective space or box, I guess. And the box itself has like inherent like logic that ensures that no party within this box compromises the overall like I guess compromises the overall like state of the box. I don't know if that makes sense. And I haven't explained this in a while. But what I'm trying to say is that it's the way forward in terms of human collaboration, company collaboration. Like it's in like we can all accept that people have their own agendas and companies have their own agendas, and if given a chance they will figure out ways to compromise a system or compromise like a workflow. And blockchain has logic inherently built into it, so to ensure that everyone behaves according to like the rules agreed upon. So that's the best I can give right now.
Thanks.
Thanks for answering that, Whitney. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is going in and out.
It happens.
So next question. Um, I agree that coding is simply a tool to build what your but what is your process for actually finding good, great ideas to build? AJ, do you mind taking a shot at this?
Of course. So if you want to build things, I think what you have to learn is that, and this, I stress this so much. You can't see my board back there, but I spend actually most of my time thinking about psychology and people. Like I spend my time like when I'm at the bus stop looking at people when I'm driving. Have you ever been in a car at a stoplight? Have you ever looked just look across, like look out your window, look into the other person's car and just look at what are they doing? Are they on their phone? Like are they eating? Are they eating a hot dog? Like start spending more time looking at people, talking to people because I don't know about the future, but today, most things we build for people. Like if you build an app, you're building it for people. If you build a new bridge, you're building it so people could drive on. So if it's true, or when you organize a webinar, you're organizing it for people, right? So if it's true that when you create something, you're creating it for other people, then you better start spending your time observing people and not just in the way you think, oh, let me just, I know I have friends. No, like start looking at your friends closely. Like when you wake up in the morning, what do your friends complain about? What do your what in when you're in your class? What does your professor complain about? What does your friend complain about? What do you complain about? Like just go through your day and think about what like am I having the best day today? When I from morning to did you have the most awesome day today? If not, think about it. Why? I mean, we should all have the most awesome day. Like, what exactly didn't make your day awesome? Like, did you feel anxious? Well, maybe you need to go build a meditation app for yourself because you felt anxious. If you feel anxious, there's probably a billion people that are also feeling anxious, right? Oh, why didn't you feel happy? Because you couldn't find your friends. Well, maybe you need to go build an app that can help you find your friends, right? But you really have to start with understanding people, understanding yourself, understand why 24 hours of your day is not just spectacular. Why you're not having a blast. Like, look, we're on this webinar right now, and the video and audio is cutting in and out. That's a problem. You think if somebody in the chat created a webinar that the video doesn't cut in and out, I will pay you a lot of money for that, because right now I am offended that we're paying so much money for this webinar tool and the Wi-Fi is cutting in and out. You know what I mean? So like, go create me a better one, and I promise you I will pay you money for that, right? So that's what you have to do. Like, you just found a problem, but you didn't notice it because you're not tuned to notice it. But I want you to consciously think, am I having an awesome day every second of the day? Is everyone around me having an awesome day every second of the day? If they're not, there's an opportunity to create something. That's how I look at it.
Wow. Wow.
Can
AJ.
can I expand on that?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Take a shot, Emiola.
Yeah, it's like, I guess the question was, how do you find problems in the world? How do you find problems, or how do you find ideas to work on? I totally agree with everything AJ said. Like, just opening your eyes and being, sorry, did I say AJ? Sorry. Everything, I agree with everything you said. Being observant about the world, problems in the world that with the you yourself experience, as well as problems in the world that you see that other people experience. That's like simply that. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, that is the key thing that opens the door for someone to go down the path of actually building building a big company to solve whatever problem in the world. What I will add, though, is that there's this theory. I don't know if I want to explain the full thing, but there's this theory of genius that basically has to do with just someone just obsessing about something, just like find a problem space. Again, this is kind of related to what I was saying before about finding your superpower, but what is of interest to you, right? Like, if you're going to spend, if you're gonna, a lot of people I'm sure in this chat, they want to start their own companies. They want to do a startup or something like a startup will take 5 to 10 years of your life, if you're successful with it. And you have to, it's important to find a problem in the world that totally aligns with your skill set, your interests, and what the world will pay for, right? So that is a journey in and of itself, taking the time to do that. Don't just jump into something that any idea that you might have. If you're saying that you want to build a big company, you jump into an idea that isn't that interesting to you, then that roller coaster of the startup ecosystem or the startup journey, like, as soon as something painful hits you, as soon as you get punched in the mouth one time, you're gonna jump off that roller coaster, right? Like, but I've been there. I've started companies in the past, and I've realized, like, yeah, okay, I'm not the guy that's gonna solve this problem because I don't care that much about it. But yeah, I would say number one is I would say the number one is just whatever you're obsessed with, like, really, like, lean into that, like, and be obsessed with it. All right, I'll take a step back. One quote I'll say this, and then I'll finish. One quote that drives me a lot is one by Mark Cuban. Actually, he has this quote. He says, if you're like, whenever, basically, if you're working on a big idea, something that you're passionate about, like, work hard enough such that if there was someone else working 24 hours a day to take that away from you, they could never catch up to you. Something like that, right? So, like, what idea, what problem in the world are you passionate about enough and well equipped to solve that no one else on this marathon could ever catch up to you? That's pretty much what I gotta say.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that, guys. And just to add to that, talking about like finding ideas, right? Because I was at Stanford's like University Innovation Fellowship. To find ideas, you really need to ask why, right? Speaking to what AJ said, you really need to like observe people. You need to ask the question of why and how, when, right? Why would I use an iPhone over an Android? Why, right? So when the more you're honing down on like answering whys, then you can speak about how. The problem is a lot of people don't spend time like in the problem space. They just move it to solution, right? Right. They don't fully develop the idea before creating a solution for it. So I think it's very important to like spend time answering the why and stuff. So next question. Thanks for the answers, Emiola and AJ. Super insightful. And Whitney as well, and Emmanuel, just so I don't leave anyone out. If you could do college all over again, what is something you would do differently? How would you go about getting a job in tech? Anyone can take this.
Can I take this?
Yes, sure.
I'm pretty excited to take this because I actually really quickly want to tell you about my college story so that you know just how easy it is for anyone to do what any one of us here are doing on this panel, right? Yeah. So right now today, like I said, I lead design on some pretty impactful projects at Twitter. I work on some really interesting initiatives with the United Nations, but to be able to say those words today it blows my fucking mind every time I think about it, because 5 years ago I was a complete fucking idiot, right? Like I was I actually my sophomore year in school, I actually got kicked out of school my sophomore year, for having a GPA of 0.8. Think about that. On a scale of 4.0, I had a GPA of 0.8, and it's because I started studying. I got into school to study electrical engineering because my doctor, I told my deck, the only people he works with are electrical engineers, and so I'm thinking in my head what I really wanted to do was what I do now was product design, but I was fooled into thinking that electrical engineering would get me down that road. And what I ended up studying was solid state physics, quantum physics, and some like electrical network analysis. And I did not care about any of that stuff, so I just didn't go to class. I didn't give a damn, and that's why I got kicked out of school. So, well, I guess okay. Let me expand a little bit more. It was actually the best thing that could have happened to me, because what I did was actually went to a community college after that and finished up all my basics. It took a year to finish up all my basics before my suspension led up to go back to school. What happened? Yeah, it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because what I did was have a year to myself to just really just think about who am I and what are the problems I want to solve in the world, and where do I want to go, and this industry of tech, what does it actually mean? I didn't know what startups were. I didn't know Silicon Valley was a thing. I didn't know what Stanford was. I didn't know any of that stuff. So this is all to say that if I could go back and tell my younger self, if I could tell my younger self a better path forward, I would just say take time to just really explore your brain. Like who are you, and what is it in the world that you want to do, and and really question your ideas of the world, because that you'll find a lot of insights in there about yourself and your alignment to the problems and the opportunities in the world that that will it's like it's an investment. Honestly, it's an investment in yourself, and can really open doors for you. I'm getting like emotional just thinking about that crazy journey I went through. But yeah, that's. I'll leave it there before I start crying.
Wow, dude, 0.8. Wow.
Hey, you don't make fun of me, man.
Super inspiring, bro. Super inspiring, bro. So does anyone, next question.
I'm over here tweeting in the chat.
Okay. So next question. How does a self-learning software developer break from the tutorial syndrome? Wow. I really can't pronounce tutorial.
A good question. I think Emmanuel should take that. Emmanuel, you create cool projects that nobody's ever created before. So I feel like if anybody,
I was going to say that I think I started this thing by doing a lot of courses on Coursera. So I just want to answer that and bring my perspective to the discussion. So I think one thing that can happen, especially for those of us who are very in tune to online learning, is that you can end up like always learning and never putting what you learned into practice. And so sometimes you forget some of the things you learned at the beginning while you're acquiring new skills. So one thing that I tried to do was that, like, after any major course or after any major topic, like I make it a point to at least create a project with that topic, like a whole skill project, like an end-to-end project. So for example, if I learned about classification in with PyTorch, etc. Let's say I learned about like a classification model with PyTorch. Before I go on to like regression or something deeper, I build a project, a whole project end to end. That way, uh, it's like that's how I end the course or the topic that I'm studying. So that way, I don't move on to the next topic until I've built something from the ground up with that particular topic, so that I cement my understanding of that topic. Yeah. Otherwise, what happens is that you tend to keep moving forward and then forgetting some of the things you learned in the back. So always make it a point to like, I always make it a point to build a project with something that I immediately learned, so that it kind of cements my ideas of it.
Thanks for sharing that. I think one of the things a lot of like people face during this time, like when they're trying to get into coding, is sometimes we take that first intro course and we code "Hello World" and that's it. We don't move anywhere from there. So thank you very much for sharing that, Emmanuel. Super important. Let's move over to the next question. For someone currently working in an entirely different industry, okay, what do you suggest as an introductory into the coding blockchain world for the purpose of creating as an entrepreneur?
I guess I'll take that one.
Perfect.
So, my suggestion is figure out your end game. In the sense that your end game, you said you want to get into entrepreneurship, technology, code, and blockchain. So like once you figure out the end game, and that could be aligned with like what are you passionate about, what is your like problem that you want to enter this entrepreneurship world with, and so on. And once you figure out that end game, figure out where you want to be in the game, right? In the sense that you can do the design that AJ mentioned, right? Or you can actually be like, okay, I need to go figure out everything about blockchain so I could personally build this entire solution. So I think starting up is like find an introductory course on like any of our edtech platforms on blockchain. If you want to get into entrepreneurship, look into like all the different design thinking workshops, lean startup, like start reading, start looking at courses and so forth. And as you're gathering like I guess high level information, think of what is that problem or what is your end game and how you can align that to it. And then once you do that, from there, I will say figure out where you want to invest most of your time because entrepreneurship is tough, right? And you can be the technologist person producing the product as well as running the business. So that's where team will come in once you introspect and find out where you want to sit in the game. So that's what my suggestion would be. And I can share more specific tutorials if anyone is interested in blockchain specifically.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. Make sure to follow up with Whitney. Hey, question from Blessing Adogame. Wow. If you guys don't know Blessing Adogame, please get to know her. Please do.
Listen to Dogame is a celebrity. She's a modern.
A question during that.
Olu, your audio is cut out.
All right. So the next question, Blessing's question: who is a leader in the tech industry that inspires you, and how did they influence your work?
Um, you want me to take that?
Yeah, take that, AJ.
Okay, so for me right now, my biggest influences in tech. So I've actually been studying a new paradigm of in tech. I've been studying a new trend where in the past you almost had to sort of, you learn tech or you learn coding or whatever, and your next step is let me go get a job and you work, your job. Maybe you join, maybe you aim, I want to join Google, I want to join Apple, or whatever company, and you just work as a software engineer and do all these things, and maybe you get promoted. But I'm starting to observe a trend in our society today where it's becoming more and more normal to have a full-time job. Like, for example, like I have a full-time job. Like I lead, a huge team of data scientists, engineers, and designers at Chevron. But at the same time, I'm also kind of working on Blademy as a startup, and I'm working on Astro Media Lab as another creative human experience design lab, right? So this nature of work, this nature of existence is becoming more and more normal. So my biggest inspirations recently, I've been studying people that have really exemplified this nature, this way of existence. So people like, you might not know Virgil Abloh, but Virgil Abloh, he's a creative, he's a designer, he's the founder of Off-White, a luxury brand. He's also currently the creative director at Louis Vuitton. So think about that. Virgil Abloh is a creative director at Louis Vuitton, but he also has his own fashion brand that's equal. That, I mean, it's not as big as Louis Vuitton, but it's very, very, very influential, right? And he can do both at the same time. I've seen people where they're like they're a CMO at a arts. I think there's another black young man that he's a CMO at Artsy, which is a art startup, but he also runs his own companies, and they're equally successful. So that nature of existence is becoming more and more normal. So these days I tend to study those people, like people like Kanye West. How can you run your own tech company, do music, but also be willing to take a job with another company, right? Like Emiola is currently a designer at Twitter, but it's no longer the case that he has to be just a designer at Twitter. He can choose to be a designer at Twitter, just that, or he can also choose that I want to do webinars, I want to impact other people, I want to be a resource to people, I want to design my own experiences, right? It's becoming more and more normal. So Virgil Abloh is like my biggest one. And my influences change over time, but I just study people that live the kind of nature of life I want to live. And I'm blessed today to say that I'm living a life that I'm truly, truly excited about. I'm truly proud of, right? Like I get to really do all these things all at the same time. And the message is it's possible. Just study people that do it. If you've seen somebody that lives a life you want to live, like study them, and try to emulate what are the things that make them do what they do.
Perfect. Thanks for answering that. Emmanuel, you look like you want to chime in on that one.
Oh, not really. I thought Virgil is an excellent example. That's why I was like very happy he said that. So.
All right, perfect. So we're going to take one more question, and then we can move ahead to the surprise. So, Daniela, even don't know Daniela as well. Make sure you connect with Daniela. Super, super dope lady. Very amazing. How have you used being from an underrepresented? Wait, how have you used being an unrepresented individual in tech STEM to your advantage, or how have you overcome challenges? Who wants to take this one?
I feel like we can all talk about this one, but I don't want to talk too much.
All right. Emiala is trying to be quiet. Whitney?
I literally just saw Kaylin's message too, putting me on the spot. So I think how I I think someone else was about to answer this because I'm going to answer this from like a international perspective. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and it's a predominantly black country. So growing up, like I had the luxury of developing my sense of self without any external validation. And by the time I got to America, I went to Howard University, which is another bubble, a black empowerment bubble, right? And by the time I exited, it was like I am my most black power self. One, I speak up because if I don't speak up, it will just be harder for me to stay in this space. And because I wouldn't, okay, can I curse? Yeah. Because I don't really give a shit about like what other people in that room cares about me and who I am. I I'm literally able to be in, like, I go to these different spaces. I come up, like I do crazy stuff, like my hair is purple, Like if I'm the one black token person in a room talking about blockchain, like you have to notice me. You have to listen to my accent. Like I'm not going out of my way. And I was very fortunate with having that strong sense of self before, because I don't think I would have been able to do that without that. And in addition, I've always been able to find my communities. So like I'm in San Francisco. Well, I live in Oakland now, but like the first summer I came to San Francisco was a bunch of white people, like white people, like Midwest white people. We had like Asians too, and like I'm not racist or anything, but oftentimes I find myself having nothing to talk about at lunch, right? So like being in that type of space, it's like okay, I'm here now, but I can be here, I can share, I can try and like educate you about my culture. I will do that as far as I see that you're absorbing, right? But if you're like literally a wall, I'm not gonna continue hitting my head against the wall trying to make you walk, right? But also to keep me like sane and to keep me grounded, I look for all the people around me or within this zip code that I think I can relate with on some fashion, whether it's like my hobbies or my Caribbean culture, like just my black culture. Like I just find people and I throw time on their calendar. I'm like, okay, hey, if I have to be in this office every day, I'm gonna have lunch with you, right? I'm gonna be selective with who I have lunch with. So that's pretty much how I navigated that space. I always had an outlet of like I came in with professionalism. If something happened in the moment and I don't feel like I can speak up, I always go home and I really reflect on what happened, what made me upset, and then I either talked about it with others who can relate to me, or if it really needs to, I'd go back to whoever brought that up and speak to them. And like never be afraid to speak up, even if you think that other people are like they probably had good intentions. Always express your voice because like often I realize it's just ignorance with people, right? Like in terms of diversity and inclusion, it's just ignorance and the bubble we were exposed to. And some of these people really don't know what impact they have with their words. So it's either on you to continuously educate them, right? And hopefully they're like a good person such that they absorb that education and they really didn't want to come from like a bad place, right? You have to develop that like radar in terms of being able to sense what type of person that person is as well, you know? In the sense that one, don't waste your energy because the energy is very precious because you need to go home after your full time and work on projects, right? And two, you can't save the world. You can't save the non-minority race in terms of like helping them, you know? So it's like just protect your energy, protect your mental space, know who you are, come with your best self, like do what you could every single moment because it's hard for me to go into the office and bring everything that I am, you know? I still filter myself. But like every every moment, every day, try and iterate over that. Yeah.
Perfect. Amazing. Amazing, Whitney.
Wait, can
The,
I add something to this?
yeah, Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is like very specific to like the people who are trying to build machine learning projects. So like if you go on Kaggle, right, you see a lot of projects and a lot of things people work on, but you won't see like things related to like I was trying to build a Google Assistant action for African traditional religion, and there was none there. So that allows me to be able to create something that I can say that oh, I built this with data that I scraped online and gathered for myself. So I think when you're in a particular group, you can create space for yourself that will let you shine. I don't know if that makes sense. So, for example, everybody who's getting into machine learning is trying to do like a Titanic data set or some other data set that everybody else is doing. But with your unique perspective, you're able to build a particular project that only you or someone from your background can have. So it gives you that edge over others. So let's say you have a project on your resume. Everybody has the exact same project. They worked on like COVID-19 data set, but then you come in and then you're like, you worked on this specific project in your community and you saw you could find the impact of that particular project in your community. That would make you stand out above the rest. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think that's how I've used that to my advantage. I've used my experience and my background to create projects that someone from my background can create. So it kind of sets me apart. So that's my
Perfect.
perspective on it.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Emmanuel. We have just 5 minutes left. So thank you guys, panelists. You guys did an amazing job. Thank you guys for sharing some insights and dropping gems. AJ, Emiola, Emmanuel, Whitney, you guys are just super amazing. Thank you guys. So at this time of the night, So we have a giveaway for you guys. So let's go. This is the giveaway. The first 10 people to post on LinkedIn or Twitter about something they learned on the webinar get a choice of any of the two books above. And you tag Learn Blademy and use the hashtags Learn Blademy Just Create. You can either get Swipe to Unlock or Design of Everyday Things. So start going. First 10 people. For those whose questions were answered, please feel free to follow any of the panelists in Twitter. Make sure you send your questions to them. Out of time. You guys are amazing. If you guys don't mind, turn on your cameras. Let's take a group picture.
Let's do it.
Turn on your camera.
Smile at the camera.
Everyone, where the attendance?
Oh, we need to get everyone in video. We need to promote all of them. I don't know if that's possible.
Oh.
No, it's possible, but it's gonna take some time. We need to do another one. We need to do another webinar where everyone is on video, and that way everybody can come in and talk, and like we can have more of a discussion and collaboration. I think that'll be good. So everyone, just one quick thing, please share your feedback with us. So you can go on the Blademy Instagram, you can go on the Blademy Twitter, you can also DM any one of the panel. Because we're all kind of cool, so people kind of talk to each other. So you can DM anyone on the panel, DM Olu, and just share some of your feedback on the webinar and say, okay, what was good, what was not good. And I'm sure there's also going to be a survey after this to just please share what was good, what was not good. The whole goal, the whole point is, I have gone, and everyone on this panel, we've all gone from, not knowing much, not really knowing what we want to do, or not understanding code, or feeling intimidated, feeling shy, to really put in the time and learning and create and perfecting our craft, to now we're at a point where we're still learning, we're still developing, but we're also creating. We're creating platforms, we're creating things for other people, and we don't want to do it alone. We want this to be a community of creators. We want, Beyonce said, let's get information, but she also said, let's get information. So it's not just about coming information together, it's also about information as in knowledge. So that's really the goal here. And so I want everybody to stay close, share your feedback, share your insights, share your ideas. If you want to collaborate with me personally or with Blademy, please, let's do it. But let's kind of keep this community going. It's exciting. Olu, what do you have?
That's it, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's amazing. How many minutes? 120 awesome people. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Take care, guys. This was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, there's going to be a follow-up email after this with more information and resources for everyone. So just stay tuned for that. But we should definitely do this again. I think this is fun.
Awesome. See you guys.
Yeah, definitely.